So welcome back to Laurie, my friend, colleague, past coach from years ago, coached me through NFTC or the Allender Center training and some personal things I was going through. And I just felt head over heels in love with Laurie as a coach, but just as someone who could really hold my story and the bigness of really who I am inside, which is rare for me. And it was such a gift then. And what an honor to get to call you my friend after all these years and changes and growth that we've both had. Laurie has a business called So That, SOW, that self, others, world is what SO stands for, sothat.com. And you can find Laurie there, who is a justice warrior that's full of compassion, gentleness, self-regulation, love. And I'm just honored that you're back with us today to further this conversation that we're having about why regulation matters and why, what is it that changes us? How does love encourage change? And Laurie, welcome back. Thank you for coming back for a second hour or so.
Thank you, Patria. It's so good to be here. And I cherish our friendship that has grown through the years.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. Well, Laurie, many of us were taught that correction, pressure, or even shaming, shame on you, produces change. Fear produces change. Well, it does, right? It certainly does. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about that kind of change?
It certainly does produce change, but it's behavioral change. It's not heart-centered change. It's not deep, profound inner change. It's, okay, now I have to do this to be accepted here. Now I have to come into the world this way to be accepted. So we can white knuckle it. I white knuckled my whole life until I found that my story actually mattered and someone was willing to listen to it. So I knew how to achieve. I knew how to roll boulders up mountains. I was really good at it. But that's a behavioral change. That's not a wholehearted love change. So it does produce change. Shame does produce change, but it also produces deep dysregulation, and it actually pulls apart our ability to connect wholeheartedly with others because we're in survival. Shame produces survival and dysregulation. Yeah.
So true. I was just thinking, an image just came to my mind while you were talking about like how we have come to understand how diamonds are made is through pressure, right? Underground pressure. And so there is this metaphorical sense in which I think pressure has been valued deeply in our culture. And, I can't speak to other cultures. I'm a one culture kid. I'm a one culture adult, but I know there are people that can speak to that. But I think there's this idea, this notion that pressure is what we have to produce something beautiful and worthy.
Right.
And you're shaking your head. You're like, no, and me too. Like, what are we saying here?
Presence. Like, that's the word that comes to me. Someone who pays attention to us, someone who attunes to us, someone who has deep, compassionate curiosity, because we are sovereign beings. We come into this world perfectly designed as we are. And if you ever see a baby, and there's some, we can talk about, stuff that happens in the womb, but babies just are pure. They're pure, innocent goodness. And they get dysregulated, but the second they have that attunement, that safety, that love, they calm, they soothe until they start getting unattuned to, and the pressure to be a good boy or good girl, or, I expect this of you. I need A's on your report card in kindergarten, silly very cultural things, we've really put a lot of pressure. And I think I was raised in the 60s and 70s, and I was just neglected a lot. You know, my
Mm-hmm.
parents were like, get outside and we don't want to see you till tomorrow, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But
Mm-hmm.
then I was kind of on my own, you know, like figuring it out and getting pressure from my peers and from bullies. And so, yes, I think pressure can produce change, but it's surface level change. It's grin and bear it change. It's dysregulating change. It doesn't produce the deep hearted change. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think too about like, diamonds come at great cost to the earth and to people who have been used for mining those things, So I just think, again, I don't want to overstate the metaphor, but that image is really strong. And Laurie, that I take my images really, like they seem to really resonate with a kind of bigger truth. And so when they show up, I take them kind of seriously. And so I just want to put that on the table as perhaps a metaphor for our conversation right now, that pressure and shame and fear can actually produce beautiful people in many ways. I mean, diamonds, people who are either seen well, thought of well, or truly are good through and through. And at what cost? At what has it cost them? What has it cost the world? And so, there's this idea of value here that's kind of popping up for me. And so let's just hover over that for a minute and talk about value. Like what, you talk about a baby being born. And oftentimes when I'm coaching people and they're certain that the stoic self is the self they've always been, I ask them about the day they were born. Do you think you came out of the womb stoic? You know, we've all heard the cry of a newborn babe at some point. Like my daughter came out quiet for a minute, an hour or so, and then boy, she found her lungs, as she should have. That's the way that babies are supposed to be. So the question then becomes, what happened to stymie that self-expression? What happened to stymie the truth of who you are? So when we talk about worth, I feel like that baby image, the image of a newborn baby, ought to bring us to that sense of worth, inherent, essential worth.
It's our, I don't even have the words for it, but it's just who we are. It's who we are. It's the truest truth of who we are. We are beings of dignity and love, and we deserve. And I use deserve. I have a lot of clients that struggle with the word deserve. More than once I've had clients say that. Have you had that experience?
Oh, yeah. I think anyone with Reformed theology in their background is going to struggle with that word, or just having a lot of humiliation in their story.
Yeah. Because it's like, no, it's all grace. It's all the grace of God, nothing I deserve.
Right.
And I'm like, no, every human, I cannot imagine one human being being born that just because they are incarnate in a body, that they don't deserve dignity and love and acceptance as is. No one,
Exactly.
I mean, as is, period. They are the diamond. They're already perfectly brought here.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
it.
that is it.
Yes. We already are. We already are.
Period.
Period.
Yeah.
So that's where I love that we're putting words to that. And thank you for hovering over that completely out of the blue.
And thank you for trusting your image.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They've never not led somewhere good.
Thank you for saying that and seeing that. And I know you believe that, and that means a lot to me.
I'm a truth teller, remember?
I know. I know. Again, one of the things I love most about you. So we've got this little baby who is the diamond. Just show, a baby, if we can start there, the baby is a diamond. They have been through, the womb and separation from the womb, which is extremely difficult. What happens in the body when someone feels judged?
That word separation, like that's not what I thought I was going to say, but they separate from their internal knowing of their diamond goodness.
Yeah.
Judgment
Yeah.
makes us doubt ourselves, makes us go to shame, makes us question, or it makes us fight back for our dignity. But
Mm-hmm.
now we're fighting back for our innate dignity
Mm-hmm.
instead of, being seen in our innate goodness. Yeah. Does that resonate for you?
So much. I just want to pause right there because this is why people double down when criticized, when when judgment comes their way, and truly, then if we start extrapolating that outward, we can see how these escalations happen between people, groups of people. This is one of the things that I've come to, and I think this is internal family systems language a lot as well, although I think it's holy. I think it's sacred language, that oftentimes our reactions, what we get in the loop of doing and trying, is trying to get back to connection. Right? We inherently are trying to recover that which was lost. But when we're doing it in the survival energy, it's projections and reactions. Like, I think you mean this, and then I react like that because I thought, I didn't ask a question, or I didn't have enough connection with you to be able to ask a question or whatever. And so it creates more, like you said, more and more and more separation, which is where we find ourselves culturally as a nation. And I think globally in many ways, although I think globally, I would say that as a nation, for at least if I understand history correctly, it has probably been civil war or civil rights movement since we've had this degree of polarization going on in our country. If I understand history, I'm not a historian. I'm an intuitive, though, and it's maybe just as good or better. But just saying. But
yes, it is.
like there.
Yes, it is.
Like, my intuition is like, I don't think we've been here. So we are at this extreme separation.
Yes.
Where is shame? What role is shame playing in this? Like, let's talk about
it's leading. It's leading much of this hatred and judgment against each other.
Yeah.
It's leading it. It's the driving force inside, because shame, it can be like the collapse and I'm so bad and I'm so unworthy. But right now, what I'm seeing is you're bad.
Yeah.
You're to blame. You're unworthy.
Oof.
Right? You're not good enough. You need to get out of our country. You don't belong here.
Yep.
Or you don't deserve equal rights because in the Bible it says.
Yep.
And so we're using it as a weapon of separation, of devaluing, but it's coming from shame.
I don't think I've ever thought about devaluing being the far end of separation. But, exactly like that. But that's that again, this imagery of moving further and further away, so that at some point you're so far away from the other, you just don't think of them as a person anymore. And I understand that, but this idea of separation as being a key component, maybe the key problem, is that there's lack of connection, because we talk about empathy, we talk about care and trust, and all those are all deeply important things. But I'm just thinking of separation as we're talking right now. This is coming to me in real time, the importance of separation producing a shame response. Like, and then there's these loops of shame that leads me to the behavior that I was disgusted of 2 years ago.
Right. But now it's a wired loop that we just circling around.
Yes.
And yes, love can break that loop, but it's not the kind of, oh, let's just all get along, because there's no justice in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk more about that. Like, keep going. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't
Because
know
we
if I
want to interrupt that cycle with love.
right
Mm-hmm.
with love, because I have had, and I'm going to come clean as an Enneagram 8 and as a justice warrior that kind of leads my system. I have been so angry, especially to people, because I am a woman of faith. I am not religious. I do not belong in any religion right now, but I am a woman of faith. And I came out of the evangelical church, and I still have friends that I love deeply that are in that church. But there is something that has happened, that has been co-opted by a totally different Jesus than the one I was taught and the one that I know, who is my master teacher, who shows me how I'm to live.
I've said this to you probably in conversation, Laurie, but I would say I have known Jesus as my friend since I was 3 years old.
Mm. Yeah.
Like there's such a knowing of this person. I know he was a person, but when I was 3, that he wasn't walking in front of me, but he has been God, Jesus, who came as a man, has been as real to me as my own self has been to me since I was a little girl, 3 years
Beautiful.
old. When I was raised keeping Sabbath, we didn't go to Sunday school. We went to Sabbath school, and my teacher brought Jonah, or the whale. She actually made a whale around her trash can, paper mache or something. I don't know how she did it, but I just remember being in the stinky trash can, which had grass clippings in it originally. So it wasn't like trash, it was grass clippings. I remember this so vividly. Like it was a bodily experience. So it really got me as a little 3-year-old type 9, and it just really made sense to me. And I was like, oh yeah, he's my friend. Jesus is my friend, like that's good. I want that, And it wasn't like a moment of like, I didn't decide, I didn't take Jesus into my heart. He became my friend in that moment. Like I knew him as my friend.
Oh, that's beautiful. Because normally there's some shame associated with taking Jesus as your friend. It's like, you suck, you're a sinner, you're born a sinner, you're
Ah,
depraved.
yeah.
And I bought that for a while
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
felt my depravity. I
Of
knew
course.
that I was a dysregulated, angry mess a lot of
You
the
said
time.
hot mess is
Yeah,
what you've thought for so
what
long.
I thought, what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that message resonated with my shame,
Yes.
right? So I'm like, oh, I do need that. But I pushed against it. I actually didn't really become friends with Jesus until I was in my late 20s. And I had a mystical experience with the real Jesus, like the real friend who loved me unconditionally and didn't even say, oh, yeah, you are a hot mess. He's like, oh, no, no, you're perfect. I love you. Has anyone told you how perfect you are? Like it was. And then for the next 2 years, it's like I was walking like 2 feet above the ground just because I
Mm.
felt so loved.
Wow.
So it changed me. And then I got conditioned.
Yeah. Well,
And then I
same.
got
Same.
indoctrinated is the
Yep.
word I use. Yeah.
Yeah. That I was just trying to figure out how to express the then after that for me too. I was littler, I was younger. I was 3,
Which is
but
even more
conditioning.
horrific
Well,
because you're,
developmentally. Yeah.
yes, yes. Can you say more about that conditioning?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I never lost Jesus. Like, I never lost salvation. That idea is now that used to be drive me is so foreign to me. Like I'd never, where would you lose? Like, oops, I lost Jesus. I mean, like I never lost him. I lost connection to my friend because what I was taught then, you know, intentionally, unintentionally, some of both, I think, certainly indoctrinated with these ideas that I didn't know better. I didn't know, and I needed somebody to tell me. And that's really what separated me from my friend for a long time. Like when I say I've known Jesus for a long time, I just don't recognize him I know him and I don't recognize him in this expression of people who are following him. Not obviously, that's not everybody. That there are people that I am so grateful for, and we have a child who is in a marginalized community, the marginalized of the marginalized community. And I think even within my own self, I sort of thought I was supporting and rallying around them, my child, because I was their mother. But as I've separated, individuated, they've become an adult, living on their own, making their own way in the world. I've come to understand that I've rallied because it's good. It's right. It's allowing my baby, who once was my baby in my womb and came out a perfect diamond, to express themselves perfectly.
Oh,
And
God.
that's just right to me.
I am speechless.
Yeah.
That is, it's stunning. It deserves a pause. How does it feel to even say it, to name that?
Well, it's just true. You know, it feels very peaceful inside to me, you know, and not like peaceful, like it's not like the water is perfectly still and I'm white knuckling. It's not that kind of peace. It's the kind of peace where I'm grounded and I know my friend Jesus says so, you know, and that is so clear to me as we talk about knowing right from wrong. You know,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about. My friend Jesus, when I was 3 years old, who met me with I'm like, I just don't think you belong in the belly of a whale, little Patria. You know, I just think you're made to be out and shining your light in the world. You know? Right?
Yeah, that's the real Jesus.
Yeah.
To every
To
human being, everyone, regardless of their beliefs, their anything,
anything.
anything.
And I think that's what I really want to drive home here is that love that invites growth and dignity is not, it's not rich or poor. It's not even about those things. It's about the face in front of us. That starts with our own, by the way. Every single day, most of us are looking at our own face in the mirror, and dignity calls us to speak. It calls us to love. It calls us and reminds us, dignity reminds us of the diamond that we are. And that is not political. Like maybe, you know, I think there's an argument that can be a political force and that Jesus had political force and political identity in this earth. And I, you know, I'm not saying he did or he didn't. But what I know is his love. And that love changed my heart at 3 years old. And it brought me back as an adult, like to awakeness and awareness and a willingness to be okay with not being okay. Like to not just go along, you know, to get
Because
along.
everyone in our tribe,
Yes.
what you know, in our
Yes.
circle says this is where we're going. It takes a lot of courage to be loving and saying, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Can you know that you're good? That you're good. And that we are all trying to find our way through in this mess of a world that we're living in. Can we find our common ground in that?
That's a big question. And one of my greatest hopes is that we can. And I do
Yes.
hope. I have a lot of hope because I know how love has changed me. And I've seen it change my kids and my husband and all my clients. Like, they do get transformed when they start to pay attention and welcome all parts.
That's right, though. It works. And that's why I'm a love warrior. I'm a love warrior.
I love that.
And love does not mean not experiencing shame or experiencing regret or pain, but love means that we link arms and we look each other in the eye and we fight together for common good of our world, which there's so much of it. Like, it's just, if you're stuck, I would say to our listeners, if you're stuck in a loop and you don't feel hope, like you're hopeless right now, you're feeling despair, just do this one little tiny thing. When you go to the grocery store, when you get gas, when you go get a soda at the soda fountain, whatever you're doing, just look up and smile at the person in front of you and see what happens. Yeah. And if they don't smile back, that's all right. Go do it again. And I bet today or tomorrow, whenever you're listening to this, if you choose to take this assignment, somebody is going to smile back at you and your heart is going to feel a little bit of warmth and a little bit of hope and a little bit of common humanity, which unites us. It does not divide us. It unites us. Yeah.
I love that exercise. And I have been doing something similar.
Yeah.
I just call it my random acts of kindness,
Yeah. Yes.
And when I go in the world, one little thing, one smile. It could be one smile. It could be, the woman in front that, has to put something back in her cart. And I'm like, no, I'm going to pay for that for you. I got it. It could be anything small. One of my favorites, and because it was done to me, so I'm going to cry at this. Like, it was so small, Patria, that I do it almost every time now. And I'm not saying this to pat myself in the back.
No, you don't even need to add that caveat.
I know. Thank you. It changed me. Starbucks drive-through. Yep. I'm, tired, exhausted, need my cup of joe. And I pull up and the barista said, "Oh, the person in front of you paid for this." Yes. And just says, "Have a nice day." They were long gone. Never knew who it was. I felt so loved.
Yeah.
That now I do that is quite often. Yeah. And because it just brings me joy because I know how it impacted me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you just brought joy in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joy is dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Risky. And contagious. Yes.
Yep. And risky. Can you say why it's risky for you?
Yeah, because it's like you're going to get dropped at some point. Like the joy is not going to be, it's not a constant feeling. You don't get to, and even as you're describing that experience, it's such an experience of kindness and deep expression of common humanity right there that I hate to even just call it an emotion, but it's fleeting. It comes and goes. Like tomorrow, Starbucks is still going to be needed, right? We still need food at our next meal. When my kids were little, I used to say, "Dang, dinner keeps coming around every single night." I know.
I resonate with that statement.
Yes. We are finite. We need more. We need to reproduce joy. And this is like, I just want to kind of close it on this little gentler end here, that this is really the nuts and bolts. It's the nitty gritty of what we're talking about. Like, we cannot solve those big, huge issues, but we can buy Starbucks for the person behind us, right? We can smile. We can just look up. Just don't even smile. Just look up and make somebody smile at you. Just like, I need your smile in me. Like, there's just a shame contracts us and it makes us look down.
Yep.
And so if all you can do is look up, then you are a shame warrior and a fighter against shame. And so good on you for doing that. So the assignment is not big. It's the nitty gritty. And Laurie, I could just talk all night long with you. And I just love your heart, and I love having this conversation where we are coming at it maybe from 8, 9, or just a little different perspective, but yet again, we're finding the common ground between us. And that my deepest hope is that somebody else could find common ground here, or ways to find it with someone else.
And this feels like a necessary conversation.
Yeah.
I never bring up politics in my coaching calls. My kids are sick of me bringing it up, but I do want to speak, out for true justice with love.
Yes. Amen.
And to protect the innocent, and to protect the least of these, and to give everyone their dignity back. That's the world I have hope for.
Yes.
And that I know someday we will be able to live in.
Yes.
So
amen.
I think I just want to encourage your listeners that I do believe it's coming. I do. I have hope. And sometimes it gets a little dim, that hope.
Yeah.
But then it goes back to the little tiny things that I can find a spark of joy, and then I try to make that spark get a little bit bigger. So I can survive some of the despair,
Yes. And so we come back ending on regulation. That at the end of the day, regulation is what this world needs. Like, we've got to be able to self-regulate or co-regulate with another person. And the fighting and the bomb dropping and the that's not going to regulate us. And even blame, shame. And even though it's really counterintuitive in those moments and even awkward to change gears and to like rest or take a breath when I want to power up or power down or just disappear. If we can stay and let ourselves be regulated by a smile, be regulated by joy, and let that spread. Like, I agree with you. It's coming. And thank you for saying that too, and reminding us of that. Well, Laurie, remind listeners of where they can find you and your work, and like, what are you offering right now?
Yes, I could be found at www.sowthat.com, and that's SOWTHAT. And I do have a business partner. I'm pretty full in my practice for one-on-one. I know you get that. And yet I teach. I love to lead groups that I'm invited to. I'm not going to initiate them, but if you have, I love teaching and leading corporate or, groups of individuals. I do IFS work, Enneagram work. It's my geeky passion. And I do, that's my special interest. And I use some other systems and tools for that to help people find the love within them. So it's an inside out job.
Thank you. Thank you for the work in the world. Thank you for touching my heart the way that you have over the years in the many different ways, and calling my own brilliance to the fore. Your voice is one in my own head as a force of love and justice and kindness. And so grateful for you. And I hope that you'll come back again. I look forward to talking more. Not that you have to say yes, but I sure hope you will in the future, because I could.
Just invite me. I love to
Okay.
respond to invitations. And the
Okay.
feeling's mutual. So it's
Yeah.
been so good to be with you, Patria.
Thanks. Thanks, Laurie. All right. We will talk soon. Listeners, if you have made it this far and did not hang up on this conversation through the political forays that we took, although I would make a case for us that it's not really political. We are talking about love, and it gets projected on all the time as political, and it's really not. And so if you've made it this far, would you just consider taking one more step toward self-leadership, toward reconnecting with that deeper knowing? Maybe you're more familiar with the inner sense of knowing in your knower, where I say Jesus has been my friend since I was 3 years old. Whatever that place is in you, would you just take some time to reconnect with that place in you and reach out for support if you feel outnumbered, if you feel like you're maybe in reactive war path zone and you need somebody who's going to love you there, that, reach out. I know at here at the Broken and Beautiful, we have coaches and spiritual directors that are on your side, and they will be on your side regardless of where you're coming from. And so if you need support and care and help back to those feelings of tenderness and joy and hope, reach out to us, reach out to Laurie. If you'd like a group led, I can speak again to her. Group leading is phenomenal. And just email either one of us if you need something. You reach out to me through the website at thebrokenandbeautiful.com. Go back and listen to our podcast episodes if you'd like, just to get a little dose of love and support and care.